What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. While we have China pushing record level of tariffs against our farmers, making our lives difficult. In fact, it's funny to show that the news really hasn't kicked up a lot of dirt about it, but anytime Donald Trump does something, well, let's get our tail feathers ruffled and put our elbows up. The Canadian government isn't focused on fixing any of that. In fact, it's all part of the plan. One of the things they've added to that distraction may get you frustrated. In fact, it's something we talked about on Wednesday's live stream. And that is, of course, the decriminalization of certain substances in the country. If you've ever watched documentaries or been around Hastings in Vancouver, you've seen the zombie-like people walking the streets, the people who are addicted to substances that are now offered a safe supply for them. People getting hit up with Narcan and different substances just so they can continue to live after devastating chemicals have entered their systems. It's truly a spectacle and a horror to behold at the same time that a government would allow their streets to turn into this scenery, to turn into this reality. Hastings is not an area that you would walk your family in, but the problem in larger cities outside of Vancouver is that it's about to get worse. In fact, they're starting to turn into areas that you don't want to walk your children around any longer or have your family take part in. One of those areas I can vouch was downtown Calgary, as 10 years ago, I would happily take my children downtown and walk around Calgary. Before we moved from Calgary into Spruce Grove, Alberta, my wife was actually terrified to go to work. Some mornings she said she would walk over what looked like fresh blood on the sidewalk. There were people passed out and she wasn't sure if they were still with us on this planet or if merely they were just ignored as they passed away on the sidewalk. It's about to get worse as decriminalization hits an all-new, ridiculous level. Global News showing us that $3.5 million in funding for vending machines that dispense safer supplies to prevent ODs is coming to a city near you. Now, keep in mind, this is a pilot program. But just like if you're thirsty, you can go to a Coca-Cola machine and get yourself really crappy Dasani water, or even worse for you, Coca-Cola. I'm not really advocating for any of those products. But now, if you need these substances, you can just go to a machine and get those at your pleasure and your leisure as well. I'm not sure how these pilot programs work, but one of the things that it describes in this video, hopefully there's information that's lacking here, and it's a little more monitored than what this sounds like. But I would sure hope that teenagers are not able to get their hands on these substances, causing further addictions. I don't know why the government is so concerned with safe supply. Actually, I've asked Grok AI what it feels. Because a lot of people say, well, it's a distraction. They all want a distraction, so you're not focused on the main issues, again, like things like tariffs, inflation, the cost of living, government spending, unaccountability, etc. There actually is a possible reason, and we'll go into that later in this video, as to why the government is so set on this. It says here that the federal government has provided nearly $3.5 million in funding for vending machines that will dispense a medical-grade opioid to users in 4 cities in an effort to prevent unalivings. Darren Fisher, Parliamentary Secretary to Health Minister Patty Hajdu, said that 2 machines are located in Vancouver, while Victoria, London, Ontario, and Dartmouth, Nova Scotia have 1 each. In fact, I even said on the live stream, good news, you can't go walking in the woods, you can't take a hike anywhere or get exercise, but you can access these machines and get opioids anytime you'd like. It says here the machines called MySafe are similar to ATMs and allow users to get hydromorphone pills, a substitute for a female hero. We'll have to say, again, I apologize. YouTube censors so many things. They'll demonetize videos if you dare talk about these things. They'll squash them down from being seen. So that reminds me, if you're enjoying this content, please hit a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. It'll help push this past YouTube censors. But it then goes to say that those substances will be dispensed to them after their palm has been scanned to identify them. So I'm hoping that there's some form of a sign up for this, that you have to get clearance from a doctor. Again, I am not 100% sure on how this program works, but if it's a matter of just scanning your hand, I sure hope that teens or young adults are not able to simply go scan their hands and get their hands on these MySafe supplies. I'm sure there is something in the way to prevent that from happening, but we're talking about a hand scan. I'm sure they'll find ways around that. Safer supply projects offer people with said substances and a disorder to a life-saving alternative to the toxic illegal supply, but they are not always convenient and easy to access, Fisher said. He said, MySafe allows participants to access a safer substance without fear, shame, or stigma, and without contact to anyone, which is all the more essential during the pandemic. What's funny here is that they're always pushing for this. And those like Danielle Smith have advocated that instead of supplying people with safe supply, we should be treating the addiction. We should be spending government funds to get these people off the streets, to get them the resources and help they need. In fact, President Donald Trump has recently said that they will not allow people to go without treatment anymore. They will not offer safe supply. You either get treatment or you go to jail. This is the way it should be done. Keep in mind that other countries around the world, like Japan, don't have a major homelessness issue because of the same reasons. It's actually illegal to be homeless. If you don't work or get yourself off the streets, they throw you in jail. Canada, on the other hand, says, oh, you got an addiction? Well, let's just, enable that addiction and keep you going. This way you don't have to worry about what you're ingesting. You can just go on your merry little way and never deal with your problems. Overdose unalivings spiked to a record level in British Columbia last year. Again, Hastings being an example, as COOF precautions closed the Canada-US border, leading to domestic manufacturing of more potent substances, often laced with high concentrations of the substance that Donald Trump had an issue with. I know I can't say the words, and I'm so sorry, folks. You know, what's funny is they blame the coup for this instead of blaming their government for not cracking down on it. They'll find little loopholes to say, oh, it's because of this, it's because of that, instead of saying, yeah, you know what, we've done a really bad job of managing this. Maybe we should increase the police's ability to actually do something about this, because they don't. They're told not to. Participants in the MySafe programs in Vancouver are assessed by a doctor. A baseline urine sample is collected before the participants can access the machines, which is good again. But again, I question legitimacy of people maybe not giving that supply to somebody else or selling it for money. But the machines which are bolted to the floor dispense to them. Dr. Mark Turndall, an epidemiologist and infectious disease specialist, began the MySafe project in December 2017 with the installation of the first machine next to a prevention site in Vancouver's downtown east side. The area is home to North America's first supervised injection site, as well as Crosstown, continent's first facility to provide injectionable substances as a therapy for entrenched drug users who have tried multiple methods to quit their habit. So again, I don't understand this process. Maybe somebody can enlighten me in the comments as to why. I understand, like, sometimes you can't quit something cold turkey. There's health risks to that. I know rehab clinics have ways of weaning you off or bringing you back down. But the problem that it sounds like to me, at least from observation, is that they're just giving you something that can't potentially harm you like a laced substance could, but they're still giving you something to just enable and lengthen the process of your addiction. They're not actually challenging the addiction. It goes on to say, while Crosstown also provides hydromorphone, Tyndall said that the program's strict regimen requiring users to attend several times a day and use their substances under supervision is not ideal for people who fear being stigmatized. The program, which now has 20 participants in the initial Vancouver site, allows users access to these substances at their convenience, he said. In a very short time, I've seen people's lives change. The ability to get up in the morning and just go pick up their medications is just revolutionary to many people who have, in many cases, got up in the morning, felt unwell, and had to hustle to find their substances. He says, again, I don't understand why we can't get them into a treatment facility so they can get off them altogether. As a taxpayer, I'd be much happier knowing that was the case. Now, I did go on to ask Grok, why is the government so set on doing this? Why are they so set on these sites? I said, is it a distraction? In fact, I'm sure you can see my question up here as I asked. Oh, wait, you can't see it because it's not in the form of a tweet. Let's make it a full browser. Even then, let's see if this one changes it a little bit. There we go. That's a little better for you guys. Why is the Canadian government so determined to keep hard substances legalized, even in safe supply? Is it to create distraction from other questionable actions the government may be involved in? Now, it goes on to say no. And it goes on to give you a lot of reasons that it's not a distraction, although it does say right here under alternative explanations. And one of the things that I've never really looked into, we've talked about it to a degree, but if you do what folks like Kevin O'Leary always say, follow the money. This really lays out the path as to why these machines are being installed, why the supply exists, why people aren't being put into programs to get them off of this. The government, by definition of what this is suggesting, wants these people to remain addicted. Rather than a distraction, it says the government's persistence with these policies likely stems from path dependence, it says down here. Once implemented, policies like the BC pilot or safe supply programs create stakeholders. Example, health professionals and NGOs invested in their continuation and making reversal politically challenging despite criticism. So NGOs profit from this. Health professionals need to be hired. Job creation. Nonprofits. It's all a business. It has nothing to do with the betterment of people. At least that's the impression I get from what I see. It has nothing to do with, hey, we're trying to do the best we can to help people that have addictions. We want it off the streets. We don't want this around your families. It's, yeah, well, if we give these machines, if we just keep towing the line of their addictions without dealing with the problem, we can implement NGOs, we can implement jobs for health professionals, we can start nonprofits, we can do all of these things that make it seem as though we care, while lynching the taxpayer to do so and making their streets unsafe to travel down. This is why Danielle Smith got a lot of pushback when she said, we need to start treating people. People should be forced into treatment. You see places like QP and everything pushing back on Danielle Smith saying, hey, no, you can't do that. You're a terrible person. You have no sympathy for those with addiction. You have no regard for how dangerous that is or what it's doing to those who are addicted. They turn around and they point the finger and they blame because it's affecting their bottom line. Oh, we can't create more NGOs. We can't have more health professionals looking after these people. We can't grant $3.5 million contracts to put up 4 vending machines across the country. Keep in mind, that's what the article said. I believe it is. Let me double check before, because I don't want anybody on YouTube saying that I've misinformed people. $3.5 million in funding for vending machines that will go on with 2 machines located in Vancouver, Victoria, London, and Dartmouth. So sorry, 5 machines. $3.5 million in funding for 5 machines. So when we talk about NGOs, when we talk about health professionals, when we talk about all the profits that the government stands to make off of safe supply, and keep in mind, this is one scale of the dragon's body. How much money do you think the government's profiting off of this? Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, boy, I sure hope this video has earned your subscription. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button. Share this out. Hit a thumbs up or a comment down below. If any information is going to get out, folks, this is the info that's got to get out there. The truth has to be shown to the public, that at least what we're seeing here, at least what's being explained to us by Grok, by the money we're following, by the patterns we're looking at, is this is just padding the government. They don't care about us. They don't care about addiction. They don't care about these substances. If they did, why aren't they diverting resources or $3.5 million into hiring more police, to criminalizing these drugs, to getting people forced treatment? Let me know your thoughts down below. If there's something I'm missing, please let me know down below as well. Again, if you've enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button. Join me live here on the channel twice a week now, Wednesdays and Fridays, for Unhinged Fringe on Wednesdays, Friday Night Fringe on Fridays, where I have a plethora of new co-hosts, as well as the beautiful Mrs. Fringe joining me on Fridays to talk about everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know coming up in the weeks ahead, as well as your Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to chatting with you guys outside of making these videos. I most importantly look forward to chatting with you this week, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say down below, because again, these kind of videos just boggle my mind sometimes. I know this doesn't directly fall under lines of federal politics, but when these things are happening in our cities, when they're happening across the country, very dangerous. And again, I'd like to hear from you, so let me know your thoughts down below. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.